Tam Naram Chayavanarotamam Devim Sarasatyam Vyasam Tato Jayo Dhiryat Nashta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Nigama Kapadurgaritam Padam Shukam Makaramita Dravisamyatam Pibata Bhagatam Rashamarayam Mahora Hora Sika Bhuvi Bhuvakaham Nashta Prayashu Krishna Sadama Pagate Damagini Saha Karonasta Dvishamasha Parona Kodinoditaham Twamapi Adabashuta Vishutam Vibhu Samapyati Anabiram Brikashkir Prakyahi Duhu Marant Sankleshan Ivanamusan Yadatam Atmaramastamune Nagranti Kana Korvandi Adhikaritam Buddha Hari Anarta Pashamam Shakshat Bhakti Yogam Lokashadina Chakra Satpara Samaram. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jigapate Kopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Sharito Pango Mama Minir Mata Matsavasha Parambo Jaradana Madanamo Seaman Rasarasaram Bivam Sivari Karsan Benushin Urpago Gopanatas Triyasanam Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagada Shima Shanishto Shri Shri Radha Shira Geva Prastadavihi Seva Manushmanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanita Jagati Taya Krishna Govinaya Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudadja Mangalam Panadikaksho Mangalaya Tanahari Om Narayanaya Vimahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodayate Om Mahadevi Chavidmahi Vishnu Patni Chadimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodayate Mahalakshmi Namastavayam Sri Sri Hari Pre Namastavayam Dhyatari Tapti Kanchana Gonangi Radhe Bindavaneshware Vishavanasute Devi Pranamani Hari Pre Namam Vishnu Paraya Krishna Vasaya Bhutare Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bhajanini Nirvishesa Sunnivari Praskada Desatani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Good morning, Bhai Bobby and Jean on Facebook Live, as well as Rob on Zoom. Thanks for joining us on this Wisdom Wednesday. Tomorrow, Vi and I are going to Houston. Let's see, we'll be traveling Thursday. The leadership conference is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll be returning on Monday. So we won't have this session next Monday and probably not Tuesday. And if we're not going to have it Monday, Tuesday, probably won't have it Wednesday. So this will be the last session for 10 days or so. Joshua is going to give the talk in our absence. We're excited about him giving his first Sunday feast talk here in Spanish Fork. We ask you to come and give him your support. Last session, we finished with the story of Durga and the donkey. The donkey is used during festival season in parts of India to carry the image, the temporary image of Durga, who is one of the demigoddesses. And during that period of time, the donkey, forgetting that the only reason people's attention is on the donkey is because of the donkey's carrying Durga on its back, the donkey feeling intoxicated by all this sudden and unexpected attention, which he's unused to, he becomes all pride and puffed up. The pauper is said is pride of his penny. Similarly, Gajendra also, without acknowledging or being aware, at least at that point in time, that his power, his strength, his influence are gifts. They're borrowed plumes from the Lord. He's thinking that his strong points are the results of his own doing, his own work, his own efforts, his own good karma. And so he's strutting, not exactly walking, but strutting with an attitude, chip on his shoulder. He's drunk on honey that he's sucked with his trunk. He's not caring about the small insects or smaller animals that he steps on. He's well aware that the lion are running away from him, followed by the deer. He's definitely feeling quite special, free to do what he wants without any negative consequences or repercussions. All this adds up to recipe for a downfall, just like the example of the donkey on whose back is the deity of Durga. Finally, the donkey thinks they finally understood. It took them a while, but they finally understood how great I am. All these people gathered on both sides of the road. As I walk down the middle of the road, they're cheering me, they're bowing down to me, they're offering diyas, ghee lamps to me, they're offering incense to me. It took them a while, but they finally realized my greatness. And the donkey thinks to himself, all this, and I haven't even begun to do my song and dance routine. He says, wait till they hear me, my beautiful singing voice, and see my special dance steps, my Fred Astaire dance steps. So he starts singing and dancing, braying rather, and jumping. And the deity falls from his back. He creates all this disturbance, the result of which the deity falls from his back. People on both sides of the road see what the donkey's doing, braying cacophonously and pitching the sacred deity from its back and trotting it underfoot. The people are enraged. They get their fists, they get their sticks, they get stones. They start stoning the donkey, kicking the donkey, whipping the donkey. And what does the donkey think? Well, at least you have to give him credit for consistency. He's thinking, nobody has the singing and dancing ability that I have. No one has the good looks that I have. These people are just envious of my superiority. So what's the point? The point was thinking, the donkey was thinking that all this obeisance, all that worship, all that attention was going for him, when actually none of it was going for him. It was all going for the deity on his back. And that, in a sense, is our story also. Gajendra is teaching us this lesson that we should not take credit for our gifts, our talents, our abilities. We should not take blessings that God's given us and use them to stoke the fires of our own ego. If we want to brag, if we want to feel proud that we've been the recipient of Krishna's largesse, Krishna's mercy, Krishna's love. And if we do something for which we get praise, we don't act falsely proud and say, shucks, and it was nothing. No, we accept people's thanks. We encourage people to encourage others. And so we tell them we appreciate their kind words, but we deflect or direct their appreciation to Krishna. Oh, Caru, you and Baba built such a beautiful temple. We were just the instruments. Krishna built the temple. Krishna had the temple in mind since the beginning of time, since the beginning of creation. All we were the instruments. We came along and we allowed Krishna to use us. It's Krishna's temple. It was Krishna's idea. The design, the architecture was Krishna. The funds that were raised were Krishna. The ability is Krishna. Everything is Krishna, 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 Krishna. We can be proud and we can accept appreciation, but we have to pass it on to Krishna. We can't allow all that to stop with us because we're not the ones who are the doers. Prakriti krumanani gunai karma hankara kartam iti manyate. The foolish living being thinks himself the doers of activity, which are in actuality carried out ultimately, immediately by material nature and ultimately by Krishna. To think of oneself as the doer, to think of oneself as special, to think of oneself as entitled, to disregard the rights of others is to forget the most important part of our lives, is that we're beholding to, we're grateful, we're dependent, we're not independent, we're prakriti, we're controlled, not the controller, we're the enjoyed, not the enjoyer, we're the subordinate, not the superior, we're the servant and not the master. We have to say that Gajendra putting himself in this position where he feels all these things and displays all these things and exhibits these things, we can't forget at the same time that he was a great devotee named Indra Dhumraj in his last life. Sometimes Krishna appears to cast his devotees into ignorance, to shroud them in darkness, to cause them to speak in such a way that they resemble ordinary mortals with all of their foibles and shortcomings. This is only in order to teach us a lesson. So we can take it that Indradyumna, the great devotee, stepped down from one life to another, from a regal life in the human form to a elephant's body, who then became attached to his family and proud of his strength and influence, and set himself up for disaster, all in order to play a role and to teach us a valuable lesson. All the elements, all the ingredients are there as a recipe for disaster. Gajendra has it all. If you have material ambitions of power or wealth or multiple wives or children, or you want to live in a beautiful heavenly-like place, Costa Rica or Hawaii, Gajendra had it all. There wasn't a single element of comfortable, enjoyable material life which was not present in the life of Gajendra. But he's playing the role of having forgotten Krishna. He was 99% Krishna conscious in his previous life. And so we expect that he's going to get back to Krishna. Krishna will never let anyone go once they've performed devotional service. But at this point in time, he's playing the role of one who has everything except Krishna. Now, we don't have a problem with having things. We're not against houses, transportation, computers, amenities. Krishna consciousness, we're not like the Mennonites or the Amish who won't drive vehicles, who won't take planes, because everything is coming from Krishna. And if you see everything as belonging to Krishna, and importantly, if you use everything to honor Krishna, there really isn't any problem with being surrounded by material opulence or material amenities. Gajendra, however, at this point is devoid of Krishna consciousness. He's proud of his own strength. He's dedicated his strength to protecting his family. Now, as we mentioned, it was quite hot. The elements had perhaps been out in the plains where there's not so much shade. They got overheated. They got thirsty. And Gajendra thought of this cool pool that wasn't too far away. And so he struck out. He led the way, followed by his wives and children, to arrive at the banks of this pool. Now, the family was reluctant to go into the pool. They knew that there were crocodiles in the water. There are various dangers in the water. They knew that the water is not their normal environment. On land, the elephant is the king. There isn't a single predator that can challenge elephants on land. But the wives and the small elephant babies had a premonition that they shouldn't go into the water, that there was danger, that one should not put oneself at a disadvantage. But Gajendra was so used to being deferred to. He was so used to everything bowing down, surrendering to him. He was so used to either bullying his way through problems, defeating enemies by brute strength, or using his superior intelligence to solve problems. Gajendra was not particularly concerned about the potential danger that was posed in the water, with the result that none of his wives went into the water, none of his children went into the water. Gajendra himself alone went into the water. He basically said to his entourage, he said, if you're concerned, don't worry, you stand on the bank, I'll go into the water, I'll do all the hard work, I'll make the sacrifices, and from the water, I'll suck up water into my trunk, and you guys just stand on the shore, and I'll give you a wonderful cooling sprinkle. I'll create a mist, I'll create a shower, so you'll be relieved of your hunger and thirst. And if there's any danger in the water, if anybody can take care of it, I am. Gajendra is thinking to himself, nobody would dare challenge me anywhere, land or water or air. He's thinking, I'm inconquerable, I'm invulnerable. And this was his problem. He didn't have sufficient fear of the water. He was blinded. He was unfocused. He didn't have clarity. Yes. There's no challenger, there's no competitor on the land. But as soon as the elephant gets in the water, he's at a great disadvantage. He's thinking, I'll be fine. And that's his problem. Prabhupada said, the greatest problem amongst devotees is lack of fear of the dangers of Maya. Let's take this recent example, which is on everybody's mind, of the attack of Hamas into Israel. The Israeli security and the Israeli army and the Israeli intelligence agencies are supposed to be the best in the world. And yet, due to a lack of fear, due to feeling overconfident, due to being complacent, they weren't as alert as they should have been to the surprise attack by Hamas. This is the problem. As long as you're fearful, as long as you're alert and diligent, it's going to be impossible for any other enemy to get the leg over on you, to get the advantage. Similarly, if we're fearful of Maya and we're clinging to our beads, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. When we're not engaged in maintaining our family or doing service at the temple, when we're not productively engaged in Krishna consciousness, immediately the devotee reaches for the beads, because Maya is going to come in during those intervals. Prabhupada said, between the beads, there's Maya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. There's a pause, you take a breath, there's a gap, Maya comes in immediately. Maya comes in immediately. So in order to progress in Krishna consciousness and be free, to be truly protected and immune from fall downs and from the tyranny of the mind and the senses, one should constantly be in Krishna consciousness. And the only way to be constant in Krishna consciousness is good, healthy fear of Maya's capabilities. I mean, after all, Shiva himself had moments when he was overwhelmed by lusty affairs. Chayavana Muni lived underneath the earth, and he had also ended up getting attached to Sukanya. Subari Muni was under the water doing penances and austerities for many years, but he also got attached when he let down his guard, even for a moment. It led from him being a detached, single, celibate, underwater sage to his getting married to 50 wives, having 100 children by each wife, and then having to maintain a family of 5,000. Subari Muni says, you guys learn from my example. Don't do what I did. Said, always keep up your diligence. Always keep a healthy fear of Maya. Maya is secondary to Krishna. Maya is a servant of Krishna. Maya is not the predominating entity in this material world. Krishna is, but Krishna has specially empowered Maya to dominate and to control those who don't have a healthy respect and fear for her. To the extent that you have lapses in your Krishna consciousness, to that extent Maya finds openings to exploit. On the road, when we travel on the highway, the best policy is to stay right within the driving lanes. Every road has a shoulder. You'll have the medium lane. You have the center lane. It may be what is staggered if it's passing, or it may be a solid line if it's a no passing zone. And you're meant in America to say just to the right of that, to the right of that. And I like to stay as close to the edge of the road as possible, because when you drive close to the medium, if someone coming in your direction is intoxicated or maybe drops something and leans down while they're driving and they lose attention and they veer across the center lane, you're going to have a head-on collision. So I like to stay as far over to the right as possible. But what I don't do is I don't go into the safety zone. There's a medium area to the right of the driving lane. It's for bicycles, and it's also safe enough if there's no bicycles or pedestrians. It's in a sense, it's safe enough. One could argue, well, there's pavement there. One could argue that if you like to stay to the right to minimize the chance of head-on collision, then you should stay all the way to the right. Go over to the far right of the bike lane or the safety zone, and then just watch out for pedestrians or bikes. But no, you should not get that cocky. You should not get that cocky. Someone can argue, well, there's no danger driving in the safety zone. No, there isn't danger per se, but you're a lot closer to the danger of yourself driving off the road, losing attention, having one little slip off the side of the road and going down into a ditch. So those who are safe drivers, those who are accident-free, are going to be those who stay within the driving lanes. They don't play loosey and goosey with the safety zone. So similarly, we have regulations: no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meat-eating. These are meant to keep us in the middle of the road, into the place where our safety is not compromised, where there's no danger of fall down. We need to drive directly and squarely into the driving lane and not get overconfident and veer over further right into the safety zone, because at the edge of the safety zone is danger. At the edge of the safety zone, there are trees that you can talk about having head-on collision. There are ditches. There's the potential of rolling or going over cliffs. So we don't venture under any circumstances into the safety zone. We leave that vacant, and that will keep us healthy. We leave that to the pedestrians. We leave that to the cyclists. But as a driver of a vehicle, or a motor vehicle, we do not take the risk of veering onto the safety zone. But that's what Gajendra is doing. He's thinking there's no danger from within the water. Water itself poses no danger. Water, in fact, has rejuvenative powers. Water it is. It's going to relieve us from our thirst. It's going to relieve us from overheating. He turns to the water for the solution to his problems. What he's doing is looking for a solution to his temporary problem of having a body which is subject to heat and thirst and hunger, blasting wind and anger and sex desire. The body is the seat, kama esha, raja esha, kama esha, krodha esha, raja gunam, lust, anger, greed. All these things reside within the senses of this material body. But we're looking for a good meal, we're looking for sex, we're looking for air conditioning in the summer, we're looking for central heating in the winter. All of these temporary solutions to the permanent problem that we are embodying. Sutritabir, kritabirima, arjana mahor, ardimana manam, sitoshni bara videkshi taracha, kamani nachuta shadaram varena. In the third canto of the Bhagavatam, Kapil shows empathy for the living beings. When talking to his mother, he says, these living beings, these embodied souls in the material world, they suffer from heat and thirst and hunger and cold and blasting wind and rain and sunshine and anger and indefatigable lust. There's no time when they're free and peaceful. And we voluntarily allow the temporary pleasures of this material world to solace us with all of the difficulties, with all of the challenge that faces us at every moment of every day. Now, here's Gajendra. His real problem is that he's embodied, but he's taking it that if I can get to the river, if I can get to the water, my problem will be solved. And he does all the hard work, blazes a trail through the jungle, followed by his entourage, takes the risk of going into the water on behalf of his family members. He relieves the thirst of his family members. And in these regards, He's a good father. He's a good spouse. He's the ideal family man. But the problem is he's not seeing Krishna in any of that. He's serving the family, thinking that the family is all in all. Now, there's nothing wrong with families. Don't get us wrong. Krishna consciousness is not anti-family. To see your family as sent by Krishna and to see your service to Krishna as to take care of your family are perfectly fine, perfectly in line with the guidelines of Krishna consciousness. Problem is not to get so attached. Problem is not to get so attached to your family as to think that without your taking risks, without your working hard, without your firming at the mouth, the family would not survive. No, the family needs you not to work hard like an ass or like an elephant. The family needs you to balance yourself between maintaining them and advancing in Krishna consciousness. Anything that takes away from your Krishna consciousness is called pratyahara. It's over endeavor. We only need a modest compact car, maybe a 1 or 2 bedroom house. We don't need a 6-bedroom house, and we don't need a BMW or a Mercedes. Problem is, our time and energy is usurped in trying for more than what are the basic necessities of life. A Krishna conscious person does not waste their time trying to get more amenities than are minimally necessary. So one provides for one's family in a simple way by honest earnings, and the balance of one's time one executes as Krishna conscious, makes sure one chants 16 rounds a day and follows all the regular principles, gathers in the morning and the evening with the children for kirtan and study of Bhagavad Gita. This is the way to navigate the highway of life in such a way as to not get into an accident or not get distracted or not to take an exit, and therefore one thing leads to another and then never get back on the main road, the highway back to home, back to Godhead. There are potential pitfalls in family life. This is described in the 4th canto by Lord Shiva to his wife Parvati. She's proposing to go to a family reunion. There are certain pitfalls there. There are certain dangers that present themselves were she to go to the sacrifice of her father Daksha. Shiva's trying to dissuade her. And in doing so, he describes somewhat the mentality of her father Daksha, who is really, 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 really into family life. He's the poster boy for an attached householder. And of him and his kind, Lord Shiva says, Griyashu Kutadharmashu Shaktagram Putra Dara Janardara Naparam Vidite Brahmam Sham Shadavartani. He says, those who are only interested in family life, entangled by wife and sons and searching after a wealth, thinking that these things are the ultimate goal, says, these people simply wander throughout the various species of life, suffering all of the pre-mentioned miseries of life without ever finding the goal, the purpose, the destination. Similarly, in that same canto, with regard to Paranjana, who is also a poster boy for attached family life, Paranjana was very attached to his wife, very attached to his kids, had an ideal, quote unquote, happy family life, but he got old, as we all must. And when the time of death came, he was freaked out. Yuktashu evam vamratashu, kutumba shakta chetasha. Kutumba means the family, means kith and kin. Yuktashu, he was yoked to them in his mind, like an oxen is yoked to the plow. So much so that his mentality is described as pramatasya. He was maddened with attachment to his family members. Ashashara savai kalo. So when that time, the moment of death came, which signaled him being forcibly taken away from the hearth of the family life, he was not very happy. And this is described as the point which is not very much liked by those who are overly attached to material things. He exclaimed, Katanu durakara duakara vitishanti deyam binam navam evodita. Remember, he's old. He's no longer capable of earning. And yet he's still thinking that the family depends upon him. Some or other, his being on the planet, dragging out his life into old age is somehow essential for the ongoing happiness and maintenance of his family. And so even as an old man, he's thinking, Katam nu duraka dinir. After I pass away, will my family members not be at a loss? Will they not be adrift like a boat? Like a boat. It doesn't have an anchor. It doesn't have impetus. It doesn't have a navigator. A boat without an anchor, without momentum, is just going to be buffeted here and there, willy-nilly. Similarly, he says, will not my family members in my absence be similar to passengers on a boat, which is in the process of being wrecked or sunk by the waves in the middle of the ocean? So hard does the head of the family work for the benefit of the family. It never, ever occurs to them that if I took the energy that I waste for extra money, bigger house than what I need, a prestigious car, spending so much more money for the brand of the car, the manufacturer of the car, than for a simple car that's just going to get me where I want to go. If I transferred all the energy that I use in order to get the extras, the false prestige, that which is unnecessary, and I simply took that time, put it into my bhajan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. People work so hard in their careers. They think they don't have time to go home and sit down to a nice meal and conversation with their family. In the interest of earning money, in the interest of maintaining the fast pace of materialistic, quote unquote, successful life, they bolt down something from the fast food window and never give themselves nor their families the luxury, the pleasure of sitting down together at a meal. What to speak of discussing Bhagavad Gita, what to speak of having kirtan, what to speak of chanting japa. They look at this material world, and they see all the gadgets and the slick marketing. They're allured by the face of Maya, and they cannot resist themselves. Every time there's a choice between Krishna or Maya, their mind goes to Maya, to Maya, to Maya. It's a pattern, it's a habit, it's an addiction. Examples given, if you look at the ocean, it looks as if it could supply all of your needs: fresh water, water for drinking, water for cooking, water for showering, water for slaking your thirst. The water is the home for a lot of seafood that could kelp and plant life, fish life. One can look at the ocean and think, this ocean is all I need for happiness. And it looks good. Granted, a superficial glance over the ocean would tend to lead one to the conclusion that, yeah, I could just get a raft or get a boat and live on the ocean. All my needs and the needs of my family would be met. But what you're not seeing is that the ocean is salty. The salty ocean cannot be used for cooking. The salty ocean water is not ideal for showering. The salty ocean water certainly can't be drunk. It will not satisfy your thirst. You don't want to go towards the ocean for your happiness, for satisfying your needs, because when you go into it, you'll discover that it's not going to meet your needs. It's not capable of it. It's like another example is you look at sweet rice and you think the sweet rice is very tasty. The best food in the world is sweet rice, but some or other, some sand has gotten into that sweet rice. So when you put the sweet rice in your mouth, your expectation is a wonderful gastronomical experience, a wonderful sensory, salivary gland experience. But just the opposite is the case. When you the sweet rice with sand embedded in it is very distasteful, very uncomfortable. So since this material world looks like it could be ideal, the ideal place to live, and yet once you commit to it, it's elusive, it's entangling, it's miserable. Just look at all the beautiful buildings, all the city parks, the walkways, the sidewalk cafes, the atmospheric coffee houses that used to be in Ukraine. Now where are they? Within a few days, big buildings in Gaza reduced to rubble. The kibbutzim, I lived in a kibbutz for a year in 1969 in Israel. Kibbutz, it was beautiful. There were trees, there were fields, there were crops. We grew apples, we grew avocados, we grew mangoes, we had sheep, we had cows. It was a simple life in the kibbutz. And yet many of those kibbutzim now are graveyards where women and children have been slaughtered. This is the tricky nature of the material world. We need to be educated. We need to be cultured enough. You know what the problem with the world is? They're not listening. They're not listening to the sages. The sages know what's what. The sages know what to go towards and what not to go towards. Pravritim cha, nivritim cha. Those who are not sages, who are not God conscious, they go towards the thing they shouldn't go to, and they go away from the things they should go towards. And they've got it wrong. Pravitim cha, nivritim cha, janavi nasacham, not just nasacham. They can attain neither happiness nor success nor permanency in this material world. Mogasha mogaga mogaga rakshasi masanim. One must know to where one should go. One must know what one should avoid. And that information becomes embedded with one through repetitive hearing from the saints. Otherwise, without that culture of hearing, it's inevitable that we get duped into relying on this material world for the satisfaction of our desires. It says, this material world, as having emanated from the absolute truth, the supreme, has a lot of allure in and of itself. So much so that even great saints and sages and demigods, they take this material world as all in all. They're often found to be committing to matter in order for the satisfaction of the senses. Even Brahma, even Indra, even Lord Shiva. There are stories pertaining to each and every one of those who forgot their innate Krishna consciousness. They had a lapse in hearing. They deviated from the shelter of their spiritual masters and got themselves into trouble. So if this is possible, even for great demigods, then think of ourselves, how we must cling to this, the words of the spiritual master, hear diligently and avidly in the association of pure devotees. One of the greatest friends I ever had, and in my estimation, a great devotee, although he's virtually unknown in ISKCON in general, his name was Pranjivan Popat. He was born and grew up and had a business and started his family in Uganda. Was doing quite well there, but Idi Amin came in and he kicked out all of the Indians, all the Gujaratis from Uganda. Literally overnight, they had all their assets appropriated by the government, and they were given tickets to go to either England or America. Pranjivan came to America with nothing. He started all over again with a little shop on the ground floor at the Trans-American building in downtown Los Angeles. He met devotees at some point, and he became a devotee and was ultimately initiated. He passed away due to a heart attack at the age of, I think, 64, and this would have been 12, 14 years ago. But he was a dear friend of mine. And the reason I mention his name is because in connection with this business of hearing, he would say whenever there was a gathering of 3 or 4 devotees, people from the temple and Indians, he would say, can we sit down and read Bhagavad Gita for 5 minutes? We would sit down, nobody's going to say no to 5 minutes. And we discuss Bhagavad Gita. And you could be saying the simplest thing, like you're not the body. And he was hearing it as if it was for the first time. He never became jaded in the matter of hearing. He never appeared to have thought, oh yeah, I've heard this before. I know this. Let's move on to something else. Let's talk about something I don't know. You know, he could have been hearing it for the 100th time. Aham Brahmasmi, you're not the body. But if he was sitting in a circle of people who were discussing, you'd hear him say all the time, oh, 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 ah. You would hear these sounds coming from his mouth, these sounds of amazement, these sounds of appreciation, and even the most often repeated, simple, basic, fundamental principles of Krishna. It never got stale. He never took it for granted. His ears were always big ears, like those of the African elephant. And when he expired, it was right. He had his heart attack right in the middle of a home program, a Saturday night kirtan, where he was standing and dancing and chanting. He must have definitely gone right back home, directly back to home, back to God. These are some thoughts, and don't forget that Gajendra was a great devotee in his last life. He's playing this role. He's modeling everything. This is a classic example. It's every detail of this pastime is meticulously arranged by the Lord for yours and my benefit. Material things are not bad. Family life is not bad. Children are not bad. Income is not bad. A house is not bad. But the lesson here is attachment to these things is bad. Wasting one's energy and time to go beyond that which is minimally necessary simply for the pursuit of what culture and society calls success, prestige, name and fame. That's the problem. That's what we should avoid at all costs. And we do that by regularly hearing from the pure devotees of the Lord. Srinvatam Shra Katha Krishnam Punya Sravanam Ridantashtu Vidunoti Saritaram. That dirtiness, that waywardness, that capriciousness within the heart that causes us to veer off course to the Circe, the deceiving, destructive island of the siren, that is counteracted by the purifying process of hearing about Krishna from the authorized sources. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thanks very much for joining us. It's been Wisdom Wednesday. I hope it's been Wisdom Wednesday for you. I hope you learned something and are glad that you tuned in these early morning hours. Jean, first of all, Vaibhavi, and then Sundari Priya, as well as Carmen. Good morning. Hare Krishna. Michelle. Thanks, Greg and Michelle, for jumping in. Gary. Thank you, Gary. Please accept my obeisance, glories to Prabhupada. Chad. Wheelwright. Hare Krishna. John Malik. Carmen. To get back home, you mustn't roam. Stay in the zone where spirit's sown. Pray every day and you'll be shown. I really like that. What do you think of that one, Rob? To get back home, you mustn't roam. Stay in the zone where spirit's sown. Pray every day and you'll be shown. What do you think of that?
Very good, Prabhuji. Very good.
And that will be followed by our own Robster's takeaway. We're sitting on the edge of our seats here, Rob. We're going to have to publish a book or something, go back throughout all these faithful and take the best of all of them, and then make them available as a little handbook for preachers and spiritual seekers on the path. some real jewels in there.
Yeah, if it can promote Krishna consciousness, I think that'd be a great idea.
Facebook is so temporary and fleeting by its very nature. It'd be nice if we could extract the best of these and bring them out, or at least post them in some more permanent sort of a forum. Let me ponder that, and if you will also do the same, we might come up with something.
Yes, Prabhuji. All right. Give Krishna his due. He gave you the ability to do what you do. He created the beautiful view. Know that nothing is created by you.
All right. When you start with you and do, there's lots of rhyming possibilities there.
It makes it easy, yes.
Yeah.
Pride cometh before the fall, ignoring death's coming call. We foolishly stand tall when at any moment we can lose it all.
Nice, nice. The first two are a little longer than normal. You're flexing your muscles here.
I'm being transcendently encouraged by Carmen's amazing refrains. Don't be insane, stay in your lane and chant the holy name.
Right to the point.
Family isn't worthless when it's your devotional service.
Nice, very nice. Pithy.
Resist the compulsion to live in the ocean. Happiness is only found in devotion.
Wow, you're knocking them out of the park today.
The sages are in the pages, sharing wisdom from the ages, freeing us from material cages.
Yeah, we're just going to have to make a compendium of some of the best of these at some point.
Oh, lost. Okay. When you're eagerly hearing, it is endearing to the spiritual master, so you will advance that much faster.
Wow, I like every one of those today. Each one strikes a chord in me.
And set your course by listening to an authorized source.
All of these reinforce our uplifting theme for today. So we're all partnered here. It's not me preaching to you, but we're all of the same consciousness. We all share the same ambitions and same goals, and we all want to go to the same place. And so we're all in the same boat. So thank you all for being with us this Wisdom Wednesday. Once again, Jean, Bobby, Carmen, Michelle, and Greg, the other Gary, Bhakti Gary from California, Chad, John Malik, Carmen, and Rob. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.